Hi everyone, it's Laura here, and in today's video I'm going to share with you a cute Halloween card with a heat embossed background that I created with stamps by Waffle flower and the new scrapbook.com embossing ink. I started off by creating a background with my distress oxides, and for that I'm going to use a very fun technique that requires the use of gloss cardstock. This is by Reinker and it's not Yupo paper, it's gloss cardstock as I said, and it's meant to be used with alcohol inks, but today I'll be using it with distress oxides. This technique is really fun and I have used it in previous videos too, well in one only actually, but I was really excited about it and the effect is so beautiful, so I wanted to share it with you again for today's card. What you need to do is to smoosh your ink pad on a sleek surface. I have here my Easy Clean Matte by Tonic Studios, and the colors that I'll be using are Twisted Citron, Maud Lawn and Squeezed Lemonade. Once you have pressed your distress oxides on your surface, you're going to spritz them with some water to activate them, and then you're going to place your panel face down onto the inks in order to transfer the ink to the panel itself. And one important thing is that you dry each layer before you go ahead and add the next one, because this way you'll get the maximum amount of texture. And I'm not sure if you can tell, but the distress oxides look really dull at this point. They somehow react with the water on this particular surface to get a very muted look. And what we are going to use to brighten up the background is Distress Microglaze and a domed blender. These are domed blenders by scrapbook.com, and I have another video here on my channel where I introduced this new tool in the scrapbook.com exclusive range. If you're interested, I will link it in the description box down below, but what I'm doing basically is I am picking up the Distress Microglaze with my blending tool and I am applying it over the entire panel, and you can see that that really brings out the colors and make them vibrant and saturated again. And I have to say that seeing that happen in real life is really cool. Because I wanted to obtain a circular panel out of this background, I used the Heffy Doodle stitched circles dies. I secured them with some washi tape to my paper and then I ran it through my die cutting machine. Next, I started working on my images that I stamped on some Neenah Solar White 110 pounds cardstock with scrapbook.com premium dye ink. I'm going to color them with some alcohol markers by Nuvo, and this is why I'm using dye ink to stamp my images. And I stamped this cute witch from the Waffle flower Hocus Pocus stamp set 3 times, and I also stamped the cauldron, but I'm not going to use it on my final card. As I said, I will be using my Nuvo alcohol markers to do the coloring, and I stuck to a very simple color palette where the dresses are all dark gray. There are some accents on the clothes and the hat, which I colored with some greens. The hair will be orange, and then I'm going to use some skin tones for her skin. All the 3 witches will be colored in exactly the same way, so in order to keep the video, to a decent length, I'm not going to show the coloring for all the witches, but just for this one right here. And I'm also going to skip over the cauldron because, as I said, I'm not going to use it on my... I'm going to leave you with a little bit of music while I finish the coloring. I'll be listing the markers on screen, so if you want you can follow along. And in case you'd like to do that, you can always use the tools on YouTube to slow down the video to a speed that is more suitable for you. Once I was done coloring, I moved on and worked on my sentiment. I used the scrapbook.com fold sampler stamp set and the scrapbook.com clear embossing ink to create my heat embossed sentiment. I used this stamp set on a fall card last week here on my channel, and today I'm using it for this Halloween card. It's a really cool set with a lot of different sentiments, and today I chose the one that reads Best Witches because I thought it was perfect for today's card. I stamped it on some black cardstock with the new scrapbook.com clear embossing ink, and I coated the stamped sentiment with some green embossing powder by Reinker. I heat set the embossing powder with my heat gun, and then I used my guillotine trimmer to trim a little banner around the sentiment. I'm trying to get as straight a cut as I can, and also I'm going to measure my sentiment banner on my card base, which is some white cardstock that I die cut with the Heffy Doodle Clover frames dies, so that I can trim down the sentiment to a size that fits nicely with my card. I'm also going to use that same stitched rectangle die from the Heffy Doodle Clover frames dies to cut a bit of that circle panel off, and then I'm going to create a heat embossed background by stamping some of the smaller images in the Hocus Pocus stamp set by Waffle flower using my scrapbook.com clear embossing ink. I was showing you there that this ink comes with a Reinker too, and I think this is actually pretty great because it reduces waste and it saves money too, because you don't have to go and buy an ink pad every time your embossing ink runs dry. So everything will be listed and linked in the description box down below if you're interested. But coming back to the card, I was stamping some of the smaller images in the Hocus Pocus set, as I said, on my background. I'm going to cover the entire panel, but I went section by section because my room was a little bit dark and I couldn't really see where I was stamping, so I thought it would be safest to heat emboss as I go. So every time I would stamp my images a couple of times, I would coat them with my green embossing powder, which is the same that I used on the sentiment, and then I would heat set that section. And I repeated that until I covered the entire background, and I also used some stamps to fill in any gaps that I didn't fill before. This finished off my custom background, and I really love creating this type of backgrounds to my cards. I usually do it just with stamping, but I feel that when you do it with heat embossing, because of those raised and shiny lines, it adds even more to your cards. So this is definitely something that I want to be doing more in the future. At this point, everything was ready and I could go ahead and adhere everything to the background. So I started by first gluing down my circular panel. I then adhered the sentiment, and lastly I'm going to glue down my 3 witches, one next to the other. I mounted everything on a top folding A2 card base using again some double-sided adhesive, and then as a finishing touch I added some white highlights with a Sakura Jelly Roll pen in the color white and size number 8. And then for a spooky touch, I decided to use my Nuvo drops. These are the glow-in-the-dark Nuvo drops in the color Apple Sour, and I added them to the smaller details on the hat, on the hair ties of the witches, so basically on anything circular on these images, and as the name says, this will glow in the dark. Unfortunately, I don't have pictures for you because I was in a little bit of a rush to finish this video, but the effect is really cool. And that's it for today. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and leave a comment in the comment section down below. This helps my channel a lot. If you haven't already, you can subscribe to my channel for more card making and paper crafting inspiration. As always, thank you all so much for stopping by and have a great day.